reservation land. This is Pawnee land. And I'm going to call Bruce Pratt up now to open us up with a word of prayer. Go to Atias.
All right, it's good to see each of you here. Glad you all made it. I'm really looking forward to what these gentlemen have to share with us today. And once again, I would say that we know that every good thing comes from above. We as Pawnee people, we call him Atias, Atedawehut. He is the creator of all things. And so we're going to pray to him at this time. Noah Atias, Atedawehut, creator of all things. We just humbly bow before you today, Heavenly Father, thankful that we can be here today. Thankful for the event, this election that is forthcoming, that has brought us all together. Heavenly Father, we just ask your blessings upon each one that is here, those who are online, Heavenly Father, especially ask a blessing on these three gentlemen, Heavenly Father, as they endeavor to represent this District 35 here in Oklahoma, Heavenly Father. And so, Lord, my prayer is that you would just bless this time together. May the words of each one just be glory and honor unto you, Heavenly Father. So we give ourselves unto you today. Let this just be a great time. Heavenly Father, we're thankful for all that you do. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so much, Bruce. I want to introduce our moderators for tonight. And we have Margot Gray, who is the Executive Director of United Indian Nations of Oklahoma, doing a fantastic job. And Bruce Pratt, who serves on the Executive Committee. He's Treasurer of UNO. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
To make sure back there, are we live streaming? Yes? Okay. All right. So we're just going to start out with just some discussion about what United Indian Nations is a 501c4, and what we do is to move to educate lawmakers at the state level and also at the U.S. level, our senators, our congresspeople, and on what, whether it's treaty rights or policy that enhances the betterment of our Native communities. So I'm going to start here. And we had pre-sent out some questions fairly to all the candidates, which I hope you all received and got to review. And the House District 35 covers 3 different tribal nations: the Pawnee Nation, the Osage Nation, and the Otoe-Missouri tribes of Oklahoma. And so what we have learned is that it's really important who we put in these seats, that they understand that relationship pre-statehood between the tribes and Oklahoma. So each candidate will be allowed 5 minutes to introduce their work, their education, their knowledge, and why they are running for House District 35. And we're going to go, each question we'll start first, second, third. Next question will go second, or first, second, third, and we'll just keep rotating back. And so we're going to give them about 5 minutes, and we'll start with Kevin Wright from Jennings.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you for everyone that come out. As she said, I'm Kevin Wright. I'm from Jennings, Oklahoma. Been there 51 years. Moved there with my father, who 51 years ago became a pastor of a whole church of 5 people, and retired 40 years later. So at 7 years old, I come out there, and I have been there ever since. Been married to my wife for 40 years, have 2 wonderful children, have 6 grandchildren, and ranging from 18 to 6 months old. So I got them spread out. My career, I started out my career in sales, and about 10 years into it, I was downsized and started a business about 28 years ago in Olton, Oklahoma, from scratch, where I do apparel and printing. And if anybody shops at Williams grocery store out here, you'll see collegiate T-shirts. They come from my company. So we market and do corporate stuff, logos, quite a bit, events, everything. And I employ about 25 to 28 people. About 13 years ago, or about in 2017, I launched a online service called thefanstop.com, and it's the College Shirt of the Month Club. And we work with about 51 colleges. So if you sign up, you get a new shirt every month of your favorite school. So that happens right out of Olton, Oklahoma. We was a pioneer in our market, so we was the only company ever doing that. When we launched it and then started expanding in 2020. So that was fun, expanding during COVID. But we've been successful at it. 22 years ago, I was asked by some gentlemen in the town of Jennings to serve on the town council. I was hesitant and I delayed it, and then 2 years later they come back and said, we really need your business sense to serve on the council. And I said, I tell you what, I'll do it for 4 years. And that was 20 years ago. 13 years ago, I become mayor. Jennings had some difficulty financing and financial issues. 13 years ago when I become mayor, we was pretty strapped. And our auditor even sat in there and said, I'm worried about this town being solvent in 2 years. And I told him, I said, give me a year and let me see what I can do. Fast forward to our meeting Monday night. We went from having about $30,000 to $50,000 in our entire entity 13 years ago. Monday night, we have $260,000 in our entity. So people, how you do it? I said, we disciplined and we cut waste. That's how you do it. We don't have a lot of tax base. We didn't have a lot of tax base to make it up. We just become a disciplined municipality. We've had some challenges. In 2021, everybody remembers in February when it got so cold. We was the first little town that had a natural gas issue. We were a little different where we leased our system to a provider to service Jennings, and it was called the Jennings Hallett Gas Company. And so, but it was supplied through Jennings. And at that time, I was actually in Tulsa. My dad had become ill, and we was actually at Cancer Treatment of America, and I was pushing around to his appointments. And if you unfortunately have ever been to a place like that, the appointments are just like that. And I received a call from our provider of the natural gas, and I couldn't take the message because we was just in the middle of an appointment, so I pushed him to a voicemail. And so therefore, can I finish my statement? Okay, all right. So I had to push him to voicemail. I said, I'll be done in about an hour. I'll come and talk to you. And that, I went up to him, pushed my dad up to where he could rest, and I went to the chapel and talked to him. He said that night that we would be without gas in the next 2 or 3 days. So I called an emergency meeting, and during that emergency meeting, we was able to get a grant for $50,000 that night to get tankers in from Houston to supply gas to the town of Jennings. So I've worked with the municipalities. I've understanding the state financing and stuff like that. I know there's funds out here for the rural communities. So with that, I've got more, but I'll stop. My time limit's up.
Test. Hello, can everybody hear me? All right. For those of y'all don't know me, my name is Mike Waters, and I feel blessed to be able to be here this evening and explain my values and everything. Tonight, I'm here because I'm running for Oklahoma House District 35, and I'm just going to start off by saying I'm not a career politician. Never have, never will be. But I am a Christian, a husband, a father, and a proud grandfather of 8, with one more coming here in 2 weeks, so 2 sets of twins. I am a lifelong resident of Pawnee County. I'm a rancher, a former sheriff, and a veteran advocate. I've spent nearly 3 decades in law enforcement. Started out right here in the city of Pawnee under Mr. Adson back in 1993. Sorry about that, Herb. I was in law enforcement protecting families, defending our rural values, and standing up for what I thought was right. For more than 25 years, I've worn the badge and stood watch over our town and county. I've led major investigation, broke up child predator rings, and worked side by side with other agencies to get justice for the victims. It didn't matter if it was state, tribal, feds, city. We all worked together. I ran the sheriff's office on a very, very tight budget. I made very tough decisions and always put the safety of our citizens first. So my priorities, and these are the reason I'm running, is public safety, agriculture and rural Oklahoma, veteran affairs, education, elders, and protecting our conservative values. These aren't just talking points, they're pillars of our community. So as your representative, I'll be the voice of the people for the people. And what I'm fixing to get into is the reason why I am running for District 35. I want to take just a minute to talk to you about something that means a lot to me. Our tribal nations and partnerships we here have in Oklahoma. The Pawnee Nation, our Native veterans, and all our tribal nations are a vital part of Oklahoma's past and our future. We are blessed to have 39 federally recognized tribes right here in Oklahoma. That is a blessing. Each one has its own government, traditions, and history. Tribal sovereignty means they have the right to govern themselves. They can make their own decisions and take care of their people. Just like any government should, that's something to be respected, everyone, not challenged. Government to government, not government over tribe. And you'll hear me say that several times throughout the evening. When our states and tribes work together, very good things happen. And I've seen it with my own eyes. We see it in law enforcement, joint with law enforcement, that makes our community safer. In tribal health clinics that serves thousands of Oklahomans, and in infrastructures projects that benefits everyone, tribal and non-tribal members. Tribes are a major part of our economy, our state's economy. They provide jobs, support local communities, support youth programs, and care deeply for their veterans, for the men and women who have proudly served and continue to serve today. So I believe when we honor tribal sovereignty and build strong relations based on respect, cooperation, we all move forward. And together, that's the Oklahoma way, working side by side for the good of our people. With that, it all still falls back to, I was born and raised right here. I grew up. I know most everybody around here. And it doesn't matter if you're white, if you're brown, if you're black. It does not matter. It's doing what's best for the people to preserve their rights. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and cut it short, but that is the main reason, one of the main reasons I am running. Thank you.
Well, hello and good evening. My name is Luke Cruz. First off, just thank you to the Pawnee Nation for putting on the forum tonight and for inviting us out. So certainly appreciate the opportunity to visit with anybody and let you know kind of who I am. So Luke Cruz, I'm originally from Stillwater. My wife and I are raising our 2 kiddos in the Morrison area now. I'm a 19-year educator. I come from a family of educators. My wife is here today. We celebrate our 20-year wedding anniversary next December, so I'm pretty excited about that. But she's also an educator. My entire 19-year career, I have seen both the public education side. I taught for over 11 years. My first job right out of college was at Frontier High School and Frontier Public Schools. taught, drove a bus, coached, all that fun stuff 19 years ago, and then spent over a decade in public ed, teaching in places like Morrison and Stillwater and just all around. And then I got my master's degree, and now I've seen the higher education side of things. I teach community college at Northern Oklahoma College. I'm at the Stillwater campus, and I teach Oklahoma history and American history and government, and just really love what I do. So my reasons for running, my top three would obviously be education is number one. It's just my livelihood, right? And with the recent ranking of education being 50th in the nation, that's no good. That's not good for our kids. That's not good for our economy. That's not good for attracting businesses. We have to improve education, and the best way to do that is to recruit and retain the best teachers, right? I've got multitudes of ideas about how I want to do that, so we can talk more in depth later after this if you would like to. But quality instruction, high quality instruction, that's going to be what's best for the kiddos, and so we have to have the best teachers in front of our students. My second reason for running is I'm a huge foster care advocate. My wife and I are former foster care parents, and seeing the foster care system and kids in crisis, that's really what I'm all about, is helping out future generations and especially those in crisis. I would love to, well, first off, I just want to shine a spotlight while I have a microphone in front of me, right? There's a program called the Care Portal program. It's also called Project 111 if you wanted to look it up online. But this is something that my wife is dedicated to. But basically what happens is when a kiddo has been removed and put into foster care, oftentimes that is in a crisis situation. And so they don't have a bed, they don't have a dresser. Oftentimes they don't even have underwear. And so the Care Portal system is a way for social workers or pastors or whoever needs to say, hey, we have this kid in crisis, and so can the local churches meet those needs? And so I'm still a volunteer with the Care Portal system, and if nothing else comes out of me running, just the fact that you've heard that is a project that is out there, I'll be happy at the end of the day. So taking care of the kiddos. And then the other reason why I'm running, obviously roads. County roads, if you've driven in Noble or Northern Payne County or Osage County, everywhere in District 35, I was door knocking last weekend, and I could have sworn that I was driving through somebody's pasture because there was grass growing in the middle of the roads out in southeastern Pawnee County. So anyway, yeah, we could absolutely invest more there. In terms of tribal relations, as a state legislator, I want to bring back a spirit of collaboration and cooperation. There's no need for the state and for the tribes in Oklahoma to be as aggressive with one another, I guess, right? There is plenty of good that could be done for all citizens of Oklahoma if we just come to the table and work with one another. I've been pretty disappointed in the current Republican leadership of Governor Stitt in terms of tribal relations. I think that he's been disrespectful to tribes and kind of painting tribes into a picture of not wanting to work with the state necessarily. I think that we need to obviously, again, work together and collaborate. And honestly, it would be my honor to serve as your representative for House District 35. I want to be an advocate for tribal matters, as we'll talk about later in some of these questions. And just know that I don't feel a responsibility to vote alongside Governor Stitt next year. In fact, it would kind of be my honor to vote against him in some issues of tribal relations. So thank you again for the time, and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you for those introductions. So I'm just going to give a brief little intro of while so many of us are here tonight. Tribal sovereignty, the authority of a government body to govern itself, predates Oklahoma and America as well. As Oklahoma sought admission to the Union as the 46th state, the 1906 Statehood Enabling Act required that Oklahoma not interfere with the tribe's interest or their lands. So with that being said, collectively, the tribes in Oklahoma generate $15.5 billion in economic impact, support 113,442 jobs and pays $5.4 billion in wages and benefits. That collectively makes us the second largest employer in the state of Oklahoma. So we've heard all of you talk about, you know, your about how you've you know, talked to and lived on the reservation. And so with that, tribal community involvement. Tribal nations have been strong partners in rural Oklahoma in healthcare, infrastructure, water sustainability, food sovereignty, and disaster response due to weather or fire events. In growing small towns, tribes have provided jobs, tourism, and businesses, creating stability in Oklahoma. In House District 35, there are 3 tribal nations, the Pawnee, Osage, and the Otoe-Missouri nations. So if you're elected, how do you see yourself engaging with leaders of the tribal nations in Oklahoma? And we'll start with Mr. Wright.
Thank you. Well, first of all, you've got to respect their sovereignty. Treat the tribal nations as partners, and ensure agreements are voluntary, transparent, and mutually beneficial. And then promote economic growth through collaboration on business, tourism, energy, and infrastructure. Support policies that turn tribals' economics in opportunities. Invest in infrastructure and workforce. We need to expand our road system. Absolutely, I think we can all agree on that. Broadband, with AI coming in, broadband's going to be very necessary. Utilities that benefit both tribe and local communities. And then align our workforces. We need to identify earlier those that needs to be going to technical schools, college, and promote them, and also give them opportunities, maybe create scholarships that these young people don't feel left behind, and develop their skills, and ensure accountability and transparency. Honor the culture and the heritage. It's in Oklahoma's DNA. And partner over patronage. Engage in collaboration. Make sure that there is transparency between the tribes and the representatives.
Well, I've got several ways, and I've dealt with all 3 of those tribes when I was sheriff. I worked hand in hand with them. And I mean, so some of these just kind of come up. And, you know, the first thing is the meetings, meeting early and regularly. You know, not just when an issue arises, but get there prior to. Visit your government offices and communities in person. Be there, see them. You build relationships that way. Before major policies or infrastructure decisions, invite the tribal government to give input and engage, be a part of, recognize their sovereignty, their status. Support joint initiatives and shared priorities. For example, healthcare, education, emergency services, and also co-promote the success, publicity, promote it, put it out there. You know, with me born and raised right here, commit to ongoing learning. I've been here 55 years, and ladies and gentlemen, there's still a lot about the tribal side that I do not know. If it wasn't for friends and family, you know, my children are Native, and I've had to learn the hard way. I mean, it didn't come to me naturally. So I would ongoing learning about the tribals, the history, the education side of it. And I'd want to use my platform to highlight the role of tribal governments as partners, making sure that the contributions are visible across the whole state and not treated as a separate or unfriendly act. So those are just kind of the top side that I've seen whenever I was sheriff, and those are some things that I would definitely step up and do, elected in that position. Thank you.
Well, I don't want to, echo a lot of the same talking points, but I would, is there anything to disagree with what these two gentlemen said? Yeah. But I just really feel that communication and collaboration, like if I were to be elected for this position, I would want to have on speed dial every one of the tribal leadership, so that if I'm down in Oklahoma City and I don't understand a bill and I don't know what the point of the writing of that bill was, I want to be able to call people in the communities that are going to be able to provide good guidance. So I do not claim to have every single answer, but my faith calls me to be a peacemaker. And so I want to make sure that I'm including everybody so that we can better serve all citizens of District 35 and Oklahoma as a whole.
Next question is, what are specific actions you would take to strengthen the government-to-government relationship with tribal nations?
Okay, thank you. Well, it kind of mirrors some of what I just said on the previous question, but the main thing is to listen. Listen first with the tribal leaders to understand their priorities and their concerns before making any policy decisions. Building the relationship, like I spoke about a while ago, you have to have that bond. You have to have that relationship. And maintain an open line of communication, not just when something arises, but year-round. Partner on the projects, on shared projects like the roads, healthcare, education, public safety, etc., because it benefits everyone. Respect sovereignty. Acknowledge the tribes have equal government and ensure discussions before actions that impact the tribal lands or the citizens. Promote understanding. Support education and training for the state and local officials about tribal history, culture, and their government. Highlight successes. Publicly recognize the contributions and the partnerships of tribal nations that strengthens all Oklahomans. So those are kind of my top 5, 6 reasons. So thank you.
So the actions that I would take to strengthen government-to-government relationships with tribal nations, I had a really eye-opening experience this past weekend as I was door-knocking in Pawnee. And one of the members of the Pawnee Nation that I was talking to about tribal and government relations, I love this quote, but he basically just said, don't make decisions about the tribes without the tribes. Amen to that, right? So, absolutely be able to have open communication and collaboration, as I mentioned in my first answer. But to give it a more concrete version of how I kind of feel that pain, I guess, a little bit, is I'm an educator, and you have no idea how many countless education bills that some yahoos wrote down at the state capitol, and they didn't have a teacher in the room deciding these education bills. So, I will never go into a room without the backing and the guidance of members of the tribe and the direction that they want to go.
Well, first, I would ensure that all state policy respects tribal sovereignty and existing legal agreements. Hold intentional and structured meetings with the tribal leaders to discuss and share priorities. Again, promote tribal business, joint infrastructure projects, and you've got to develop the workforce. I will say that. We've got to develop the workforce so we can be supportive of them. Partner on law enforcement, energy responses, emergency responses, crime prevention programs. Improve the infrastructure and healthcare. Work with the tribes on roads, water, broadband, healthcare services. And most of all, maintain an open communication channel. Ensure transparency, responsiveness, inclusion of tribes' perspective in states' decision-making. We're all Oklahomans, and we need to make it the best state we can.
we kind of made an executive decision. It looks like the next question you all have already answered of how you would, and I'll tell the audience here. Outside of formal governmental processes, how can elected officials improve relations between the tribes and Oklahoma? And I think all of you answered that adequately. All right, so our next topic will be tribal sovereignty. Tribal nations in Oklahoma possess inherent sovereignty, which is the source of the power to exercise governmental authority over themselves and their territories. The U.S. Constitution in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, enshrines tribal nations as among the other sovereigns in the United States. Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes, unquote there. Tribal nations exercise inherent rights to tax, regulate, and protect tribal and non-tribal citizens through law enforcement and jurisdiction. Tribal sovereign powers also allow tribes to establish enterprises that employ thousands of Oklahomans. Question: do you support the rights of tribal nations in Oklahoma to exercise their sovereign powers? You get that one.
I see that there's more in there. Do you want me to answer
Okay.
the rest of the
Well,
questions?
yeah, let me go ahead,
Okay.
because there's like several questions in this one. Are there ways that tribal sovereignty improves the lives of all Oklahomans? Do you support the expansion of games and tribal gaming operations through amendments to the tribal state gaming compacts?
Excellent, thank you. To the first question, do I support the rights of tribal nations in Oklahoma to exercise their sovereign powers? Yes, absolutely. I think that a big part, especially as I'm teaching my Oklahoma history and government classes to incoming college freshmen, a big part of what I try to emphasize in the classroom is that for some reason, maybe it's just because we've all been raised in Oklahoma, and so we forget the nation part of that entire word, right? And the way that we need to be thinking about tribal nations is the same way that the United States thinks about Canada or Mexico in terms of foreign policy. The jurisdictional, the sovereign ability to tax, all these sort of things. To the second part of that question, are there ways that tribal sovereignty improves the lives of Oklahoma? Undoubtedly, yes. In terms of cooperative health care that I see even here just in Pawnee, that's not available just to tribal citizens, but you guys have also opened access to anybody in the surrounding area. Absolutely. Infrastructure funding in terms of roads that have been paved with tribal money. Obviously it's to the benefit of all Oklahomans. Tribes are an integral part of the functioning of our state. To the third part, and this, I'm going to try to cut it short just because I've got so much that I want to say about tribal gaming, yeah. To the third question there was expansion of games and tribal gaming operations. Yes, 100% yes. I was working as hard as I could on our former representative to try to see when we were going to bring sports gambling to this state. Not necessarily because I'm a degenerate gambler or anything, right? Like, don't get me wrong there. But my goodness, we're leaving money on the table. Whenever citizens can drive just across the border and then it pings on their phone that now they can start placing sports bets, we're leaving money on the table right there. And that's twofold. On number one, we're leaving taxable revenue on the table. But number two, I want to make sure that any sports gambling law that does pass, I don't want it to just open up sports gambling, because I don't want to see outside like Caesar's Palace or DraftKings come in and monopolize the business. Like, this needs to be regulated, and I want to see it go through the tribes first and foremost. And so I would absolutely love to see an update to the gaming compacts.
Of course, the first question, absolutely. And then the second one, are there ways that the sovereignty improves the lives of Oklahomans? Of course, and creating jobs for tribal and non-tribal members. Infrastructure improvements, if you lived around here, you can definitely see where investments have been made in roads and partnerships with cities and streets and sidewalks and buildings, et cetera. And of course, through health care for the tribal hospitals and clinics. It takes the pressure off the non-tribal hospital and clinics so that we can have better treatment for all of Oklahomans. So absolutely, you can see the benefit of the tribes here in Oklahoma. As far as the tribal gaming operation amendments, first of all, I'd have to see what's in the amendment before I can make a decision to support it. And I'm assuming that most of this question's about the sports betting amendment. And I, as a sports fan, and as I worked with 51 colleges, I pay attention quite a bit to sports. But what's been concerning to me of recent is the allegations of athletes rigging games. And as a sports fan, I would definitely want to see what's in the amendment and make sure there's guardrails to protect the purity of the sport.
Okay, on the first question, do you support the rights of tribal nations in Oklahoma to exercise their sovereign powers? Most definitely. I fully support that. Tribal sovereignty is a fundamental part of our state's history and success. When tribes govern their own affairs, it strengthens local communities. It creates jobs, it protects resources, and it benefits all Oklahomans. I believe in working together as equal partners built on respect, trust, and the goals that we share. As far as the other question, are there ways that tribal sovereignty improves the lives of Oklahomans? That is a big yes. Tribal sovereignty benefits all Oklahomans, not just the native citizens. Stronger economics by them creating thousands of jobs, invest billions in Oklahoma's economy, and support the local businesses, energy, and tourism. The better infrastructure tribal governments help build, maintain roads, bridges, and like water systems that serve everyone, not just the tribal citizens. Improved health care. The hospitals and clinics treat native and non-natives, easing the strain on rural health systems, which is a big problem right now in Oklahoma. Education and jobs, as far as like the scholarships, early learning, training programs, strengthening Oklahoma's workforce. Public safety, kind of touchy on that one. Tribal police, fire, and EMS work with local agencies to protect communities and respond to emergencies. And then there's environmental stewardship. Tribes protect land, water, and wildlife, which is helping keep Oklahoma healthy for the future generation. So in short, tribal sovereignty means partnership, respect, shared prosperity, which all making life better for all Oklahomans. As far as the expansion of the gaming compacts, yes, I completely support that. I believe it's through the gaming operations, through fair and mutually beneficial compact amendments, tribal gaming creates jobs. It strengthens local economies again, and it funds vital services that benefits all Oklahomans. So I believe working together with respect and transparency ensures continued growth and shared success. Thank you.
Since 1972, the established law gives tribal citizens exemption from state income tax on monies earned on the reservations from any source on the reservations. Do you believe the Oklahoma Tax Commission should be spending so much time and money attempting to deny individual tribal members exemption claims?
Well, I don't think that's the most prudent way to use the state resources.
No, I do not believe the state should waste time and money fighting for valid tribal tax exemptions. The resources would be better spent working with tribes on solutions that respect sovereignty, reduce conflict, and benefit all Oklahomans again.
So, with this question, it immediately brought to mind the Strobel case that was just decided over the summer, in terms of citizen. Well, she was a Muskogee citizen that was the Oklahoma Tax Commission was, well, she worked and earned money on the reservation and worked for the tribe, and so therefore, based on the McGirt decision, was that going to be an extension of McGirt? Now, if it's I kind of have different ideas about this, I guess. Letter of the law and spirit of the law, maybe. Letter of the law, same answer as in the McGirt decision. Like, if you're living in a separate nation and working for that separate nation, it would be kind of like my example that I was giving of Canada earlier. Would it make any sense for Oklahoma to be able to tax Canadian citizens, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And so if we're thinking about tribal nations as actual nations, then I think that the Strobel case probably got it wrong. The concern that I have is if that is overturned, or if there is an extension of what was being asked in the Strobel case, if it's just one independent individual, sure, letter of the law says that they don't have to pay Oklahoma state taxes if they're earning money on the reservation. But then if we expand that to casinos or other issues like that, well, then I think it gets a little bit more murky in terms of the spirit of the law. Let me go back to what I've been talking about the entire night. We're better together. The state of Oklahoma and the tribes are going to be better together. And so I want to see whatever is going to be the best for all citizens. Thank you.
All right. Again, I think we kind of doubled this question. Currently, when tribes exercise their authority on tribal lands, the state also imposes taxes on the same business, resulting in double taxation. What are your thoughts on how to resolve these double taxation issues? And they could be a short answer because you all kind of answered that in your last one. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, my opinion, double taxation hurts businesses and local economy. The best solution, I feel, is to have an open dialogue and fair agreements between the states and the tribe. Working together creates clear, consistent rules that respect tribal sovereignty, authority, and support economic growth for everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that Sheriff Waters just said right there. I'm a former small business owner, and so I definitely know the struggles of running my own business. I owned a snow cone stand in Stillwater, and we actually did so well that it put my wife and I through college, and then a couple of our younger siblings. So we understand the struggles of payroll and meeting taxes and all that sort of stuff. So again, in the spirit of collaboration and cooperation, I would want input from tribal leaders in terms of how we can best solve these issues.
Well, Oklahoma deserves fair and competitive environments. I would promote voluntary state and tribal tax compacts instead of litigation. That doesn't benefit anybody. And double taxation does not promote business. I am a business owner, small business owner who employs about 28 people, and understanding it takes every dime to make it. It's not easy out there. When you have payroll to meet, insurances to meet, everything like that, it takes everything. So double taxation really hurts a small business. Consistent and clarity. One fair tax and not overlapping tax burdens people. We've got to have some cooperation between the state and the tribes because we're better together, and it's mutually beneficial to all of us to have tax agreements and have some clarity to it and make sure that we have a framework that works for both the state and the tribes.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to another topic, teaching Native histories and cultures in Oklahoma schools. House Bill 1775 prohibits school teachers from teaching lessons that include ideas that one race is inherently superior to another race. A person is inherently racist or oppressive based on his or her race. A person, by virtue of his or her his or her race, bears responsibilities for actions committed in the past by others of the same race. A person should feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race. This new law has raised concerns with some teachers about assigning the book Killers of the Flower Moon or other books on Native history for fear of losing their licenses to teach. What are specifics, actions you would take to ensure that House Bill 1775 does not exclude Native voices and stories from K through 12 education? The second part of that is, what are specific actions you would take to ensure that Oklahoma and United States history are accurately and adequately taught in K through 12 schools?
Excellent. Thank you for the question. Boy, howdy, we had committee meetings and all sorts of stuff whenever this bill was being authored into law, and I have some pretty strong feelings about House Bill 1775. First off, Killers of the Flower Moon, I like the movie. Everybody loves Leonardo DiCaprio, right? But the book is so much better. So I would highly encourage, go read the book. Are you? Oh, really? Yeah. All right, yeah. Well, you like the movie? Okay. Nonpartisan, that's right. Now, in terms of the law itself, I've always thought that this law was overreach, and it was a little bit silly. I think that we got caught up in the 2020, in George Floyd, and in the DEI and the woke, and our state went a little bit overboard in how they wrote this law. The specific part that I highlighted right here is, if a teacher says something as they are teaching history, if that makes a student feel discomfort, guilt, or anguish, we're writing legislation about feelings, and that is just, it was bad legislation to start with, in my humble opinion. The point of history is to learn from our past so that we don't make bad mistakes again. If I stub my toe on my living room couch, I don't throw the couch out into the dumpster and then just pretend like I never had a couch, right? I just learn the lesson so that I don't stub my toe again. That's what we have to talk about, the good, the bad, and the ugly in our history classes. A good history teacher tells stories in which the student feels empathy and not guilt. And that empathy is a necessary part of human development. So in terms of what I would do as a legislator, I would do anything in my power to repeal this legislation. It was bad legislation. I feel like history teachers especially need to say those words, like genocide, like slavery, like massacre. Whenever we're teaching about all parts of U.S. and Oklahoma history, and not sweep it under the rug, because it should make us feel empathy so that as humans together we can move forward together. I don't like the legislation, and I would work to repeal it. If any state superintendent in the future was threatening to take away history teachers and threatening to take away their licenses, I would be a vote to impeach that state superintendent. So I feel strongly about the matter. Thank you for allowing me to answer.
First of all, history is important to all of us. The reason history is important to all of us is we don't repeat the same mistakes of the past and eliminate history when you have tendency to repeat mistakes. So it's always important to always learn from history so we never forget. I completely support teaching factual history in K through 12 education and make sure that is clearly communicated in our education system.
Oh, I thought there was one more. I'm sorry. My answer to that, and it's kind of hard to follow that up from Teach over here. I learned a lot there. But I have heard about House Bill 1775, and I would definitely work to ensure that that is reworded, implemented in a way that it respects Native history and voices. The kids got to know. I mean, just like I said, I still have to learn. There's a lot I don't know. So I know the younger generation needs needs to be learning that too. So by that, this means supporting teachers with clear guidance, curriculum resources, and professional development so they can teach about Native history, including events like Killers of the Flower Moon, accurately and responsibly, without fear of losing their license. Native perspectives should remain a part of our school's education from now on. Thank you. Oh, is there a second part? The specific actions you would like to ensure the Oklahoma and United States history are accurately and adequately taught, K through 12? Go ahead and answer that. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, I would kind of repeat some of the other. I would definitely make sure teachers have the right books, resources, and training so the kids can learn Oklahoma and U.S. history the right way. This includes teaching about Native history and local stories so students get the full picture. So both of those kind of go hand in hand, but it's all about the children learning, knowing about, because not a lot of their ancestors are here to tell them. So they have to learn from other people about their history. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, switching gears, we're going to reservations and jurisdiction in Indian Country. The U.S. Supreme Court decision in McGirt v. Oklahoma and Castroweta v. Oklahoma have caused shifts in the exercise of tribal, federal, and state jurisdiction in Oklahoma. McGirt reaffirmed that only Congress, through explicit language, can disestablish Indian reservations that were established by treaty, statute, or executive order. As a result, the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Muskogee Creek, Quapaw, Seminole reservations have been reaffirmed. Castro Huerta upset years of precedent and ruled that the state has concurrent jurisdiction with the United States over crimes committed by non-Indians on Indians in Indian Country. Here's your question, and it's in 3 parts. Do you support the exercise of tribal jurisdiction throughout reservations within Oklahoma? Why or why not? And then the second part is, what is your position on federal legislation that would overturn the McGirt decision by disestablishing reservations in Oklahoma? How should the state and the United States decide which government exercises criminal jurisdiction in Indian Country? And I believe it goes to Mr. Waters. Is that right? Is it you? Okay. Okay. No, wait, then it would be him. Then it would be, yeah. Gosh, we can't keep this in order. There's the right. Yeah, it is him. Yeah, we're starting all over again. Don't confuse me with the facts.
Thank you.
It's Mr. Wright,
Yes.
please.
First of all, the Supreme Court has made the ruling very clearly, and I support the rule of law. Your second part of the question, I do not support federal legislation. I'd rather see tribes and state work together to resolve their differences. First of all, we need to understand Indian Country, the tribal lands, tribal jurisdiction, federal jurisdiction, and how major crimes acts, the major crime acts were murder and kidnapping, sexual assault, arson, robbery, and then state jurisdiction generally doesn't apply, don't have automatic authority on the tribal land, and we just need coordination, cooperation, so that we can work together if there's overlapping authorities during these situations. So, first we got to identify the offender, if it's Indian or non-Indian, identify the victim, if it's Indian or non-Indian, and type of crime, major or minor, and location, on or off tribal land, and federal or state authority. But the most important thing, we got to cooperate together for the good of all Oklahomans.
So, yes, I do support tribal jurisdiction on reservation in Oklahoma. When I was sheriff, whenever something would happen and jurisdiction was a question, it didn't matter. We worked together to make the community safe, and then we went back and hashed it out and worked together to get the best results. So with that, yes, I do support that. The tribes have the right to govern their lands, enforce their laws, and protect their communities. Respecting tribal authority strengthens public safety. That's where I was getting at. Honors treaties and supports partnerships that benefit all. My position on the federal legislation that would overturn the McGirt decision, I oppose any federal legislation that would overturn McGirt. The sheriffs through Oklahoma in the eastern part of the state, I know they had problems, but it wasn't really them, it was the prosecutors. They're the ones that were having the big issues. The sheriffs were understandable. It was the prosecutors higher up where that problem come from. So disestablishing reservations, and that to me that would be ignoring treaties, weaken tribal sovereignty, and harm the safety, culture, and the rights of tribal communities right here in Oklahoma. So how should the state and the United States decide which government exercises criminal jurisdiction in Indian country? Criminal jurisdiction in Indian country should be decided through clear agreements and respect for tribal sovereignty, following the federal laws. Tribes, the state, and the U.S. should work together as one to ensure justice is fair, efficient, and protects all communities. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what's already been said. Do you support the exercise of tribal jurisdiction throughout reservations within Oklahoma? Absolutely. That's exactly what the McGirt decision was all about. A nation should be able to have their own sovereignty, their own laws, and their own law enforcement, and that's firmly established with the McGirt decision. So yes, absolutely. Position on federal legislation that would overturn McGirt by disestablishing reservations in Oklahoma. Again, that would take an act of Congress. I do not think that I could be wrong. I don't think that there's an appetite for disestablishing reservation lands from the federal Congress right now, just because outside of Oklahoma, I'm not sure how aware other federal politicians are of tribal reservation issues, the same way that we're educated here in Oklahoma. But either way, no. The treaties and all of those predate statehood for the state of Oklahoma, and so that should be the law of the land, because that's what's been on the books for much, much longer. How should the state in the United States decide which government exercises criminal jurisdiction? I'm going to echo a lot of what my fellow candidates up here said. It has to be cooperation, and the main reason, my main concern on this, on who has jurisdiction and who doesn't, my main concern is that if both state or tribe don't think that they have jurisdiction, well, we definitely don't want to leave out anybody or leave anybody in trouble right there. So that's my biggest concern right there. So again, clear agreements between the state and tribes in terms of who has jurisdiction where, and how can we all get along to make sure that all Oklahomans are safe. Yeah.
All right, thank you for your answers on those questions. We're going to go to the social ills challenges that we have. Missing and murdered indigenous people in Oklahoma are ranked number 2 in the country. Recently, the Oklahoma legislature voted to override the governor's veto of Ida's law. How will you support law enforcement and funding to continue analyzing and solving murdered and missing indigenous people cases?
Thank you. I lost track again. Well, the MMIP cases touches close to home, and this is why. About 10 months ago, I was called and asked to set on a program that the Muskogee Creek Nation is trying to get going. There was 5 of us investigators, and they picked me out of one, one out of the 5 through the state of Oklahoma. And that was going to be our primary job. They do have the bill wrote. It has not went through legislation yet. That's what they're waiting on for the funding. So when I saw that, I kind of smiled and I'm like, yes, this is right up my alley. But yes, I will support funding by any means for that. The resources, the training for the law enforcement to fully implement the IDA's law, ensuring that the missing and murdered indigenous people cases are investigated thoroughly and solved, keeping communities safe and the families supported.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of echo how I started to answer the last question, but nobody, the state of Oklahoma, the tribes, nobody in Oklahoma wants to see gaps in law enforcement, and especially gaps in investigations for missing and murdered indigenous people. So yeah, any funding, any way that we can come together and make sure, again, I'm echoing similar points from earlier in a spirit of cooperation and collaboration. How do we work with each other to, again, make sure that everybody is safe in House District 35 and across all of Oklahoma?
Well, you talk about this, we got an educator down there and a sheriff, former sheriff, but these questions here. But no, I would probably support a dedicated line item to the budget for MMIP, that we could put some clear benchmark performances in there that OSBI or relevant agents could clear some of the backlog cases and address the new investigation. But there's some other ways to rule of law, public safety, ensuring the law enforcement has the tools they need, effective use of taxpayer dollars, state and local leadership to emphasize the state sovereignty, local control, partnership, rather than reliance on distant federal bureaucracy, equal protection under the law, and collaboration, accountability. I think it all goes back to working together as tribes and states that makes this, would make this the best for everyone.
Thank you. And just as a point of reference for you gentlemen, that in the state of Oklahoma, we are ranked number 2 in the nation for MMIP. We have over 10,000 open cases of missing and murdered indigenous people. There are only 2 OSBI current agents that they work on this full time. And that's why we were able to ask this question, and we appreciate those answers. So we are down to the last question. And we covered like social ills in our communities. In the past 5 years, drug overdoses of prescription opioids have been on the decrease until illicitly manufactured fentanyl was introduced. Then the overdose deaths have increased nearly 15-fold in rural Oklahoma. What bills would you introduce to combat these issues if elected?
Yeah, this is absolutely going to be an issue that we need to tackle as a state together. Addiction, just whether it's fentanyl overdoses or just addiction in general, addiction causes homelessness, causes poverty, causes overdose deaths, causes abuse. And we already have laws. So we are criminalizing illicit drug use in the state of Oklahoma. And so I don't think that the answer is going to be more laws and more criminalization. I think that the answer is going to be investment in social programs for prevention, whether that is addiction treatment facilities, mental health care facilities, whether that is education and prevention, avoidance programs that we could reach out into the schools again to do. I think that just social programs, full stop, need more investment in the state of Oklahoma because this cannot just be the norm in Oklahoma. And so, again, I don't think that criminalization and sending these people to jail is the correct answer. I think that making sure that they have the resources necessary to get off of these addictive drugs so that they can become a productive member of society is going to be more the answer. Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
First, I think we'd implement mandatory minimum sentences for repeat offenders and large-scale distributors. Support laws that enforce resources, allocate funding to specialized narcotics forces to investigate fentanyl production and trafficking, provide the funds and training, equipment, officers handling this, public education and prevention. Make sure that we launch maybe statewide campaigns to educate the youth and the dangers of this deadly drug. Partner with schools, faith-based organization, and community centers implementing preventative programs, and support treatment programs. I've been involved with one treatment program that a lot of people have been aware of a teen challenge in our state. And I've been able to do some stuff and work alongside of them, and I see how they affect the lives of young men and women. And if giving the time and the funds to do it, how they can change lives. So just be supportive and of the treatment programs for these people, and encourage private and public partnerships for recovery services without expanding government bureaucracy.
Yes, ma'am. All right, bills that would you introduce to combat these issues if elected? I would push and support bills that, well, let me back up a little bit. First of all, I have seen what the opioids, the meth, the fentanyl has done. I've seen it tear families apart. I've been on the calls. I've been on the deaths. I've had to do the the dreaded knock. There's got to be something done. Well, they've tried making harsher laws for it. They just get out. They keep doing it over and over and over. So with my sheriff experience, this tells me we need to start back, and here's just a few things that I would push and support. Expand access to addiction treatment and recovery services. That is a big deal in Oklahoma right now. There's not enough beds. There's not enough available resources for that. Increasing funding for law enforcement and public health so they can combat the fentanyl trafficking. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of overtime, a lot of investigation to, what do they say, cut the head off the snake, to follow it up the ladder. So another thing is provide the education programs on the dangers of fentanyl and opioids. We need to teach our children at a younger age, instead of them getting up in the bad teens, I guess I should say. Teach them younger. I know they do it like smoking and so forth like that. Let's show them the effects. I used to go to the schools, and I would have 5 pictures of the same lady in 10-year increments. And she looked 18 in this picture and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but 95 in this picture, and she was 45 years old. So the schools let me teach that to try to teach our children, this is what it does to you. Stay away from it. It's no. Just say no. You got to take that peer pressure. Another thing is strengthen community partnership. I think Pawnee Nations, and I know when I was sheriff, was very big on that. Anytime we had after prom parties, I always went as a sheriff. Of course, I had 4 kids in school, but I always went, and anything drug related through the school, the parades, the programs, anything at school, I would always get my department. I would try to get the Pawnee Police Department, and we would all try to work together because it's back to educating our children. So by the community partnership, we can prevent overdoses and support family affected by that nasty addiction. But it's going to take everybody as one. You can't do it alone. The tribe can't do it alone. The state can't do it alone. We're going to have to do it together because of the funding, the resources. And then it falls back to, everything's better for Oklahomans. That covers both sides. Thank you.
All right, well, that ends all of our questions. And how we're going to wrap up is we're going to give them each 2 minutes to say closing statement or why vote for you, however you want to do that. and then we'll close out, and then the gentlemen are going to stay afterwards, and they'll be able to take questions from and meet the different people who have came here. So we're going to go back and start with you.
Thank you to the moderators, and thank you to Mike and Luke, and thank you to all of you that come out and spent your evening here and are concerned about this state. I'm running to give a voice to rural Oklahoma at the state capitol. Too often, decisions are made without fully understanding the opportunities and challenges we face outside of the large cities. Oklahomans represent more than large cities. Oklahomans are all of Oklahoma, which includes District 35. I want to be a strong advocate for rural families, farmers, oil and gas, small business owners, and hardworking Oklahomans who make our town strong and desire to make them even stronger. My focus will be on strengthening the local schools, ensuring our children have opportunities close to home, supporting agriculture, energy, rural business that drives our local economy so they can grow and our communities not only survive but thrive. Protecting our values, our lands, our way of life. Life is just different in a small town, and I think it's worth protecting. I believe in practical solutions, wise leadership, and staying true to the people I represent. I'm not running for a title. I'm running to serve, to listen, and make District 35 of Oklahoma have a seat at the table. Number one, I'm a Christian, first of all, and that will guide my moral compass. Second, I'm a conservative Republican, and I just say compare resumes. 28 years ago, I started a small business from scratch, pioneered markets. I've been a small town mayor, helped turn Jennings around from the verge of bankruptcy. I have improved roads, not to what I wanted, but I have improved roads. I have the experience, the ability, and the willpower to make America first, Oklahoma first, and District 35 first. I humbly ask for your vote on December 9th.
I didn't know which way. Well, first of all, thank everybody for being here. Thank you all for having this. I already explained earlier why I'm running, my priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, this is home. This is home. District 35 is home. I was brought up, I started my law enforcement career right here. I've had 4 kids through this era. Yes, they are part native. They don't look it, but they are. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, but, you know, I got some questions about that. But anyway, but the main reason is for the people. You know, I had 25 years of politics. I got out 4.5 years, and I was like, you know, it's time to get back in. It's the right time. It's for the people. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter if you're blue, you're red. It's for the people. Conservative, for the people, down the middle. I've got slammed one way, and I've got slammed the other. It doesn't matter. It's strictly for what's best for the people. So that is my beliefs. I do know that my great uncle, I just found this out a little while back, that he was a state representative for District 35 from 1973 to 1985. Don Johnson was his name. And I've got pictures, but I didn't know who it was at the time, but I've got pictures of me sitting at the Capitol, 4 or 5 years old. You know, so I thought that was kind of neat, you know. But his values and my values are the same. It does not matter if you're red or blue. It's who you are and what you're for. So I'm just here because I want to be for the people. I believe in being the voice. I've learned through law enforcement, through my politics there. People want to be heard. You may not be able to help, you know, if 100 people come talk to you, you may not be able to help 100 people. But tell them the truth. Be upfront. Be honest about it. And explain why. 99% of the time, when they are heard, they're satisfied. You know, none of this, well, I'll look into it type of deal. No, follow up with them. That follow through for the people. You treat people how you want to be treated. So that's kind of some of the reasons I wanted to get back into it, because I miss the people. I miss, being able to make a difference. I know one person can't do it alone, but when a person screams and yells and creates enough commotion, other people will usually follow. So I do have a Facebook, Mike Waters for State Representative, if y'all want to see any more of my priorities, my values. The reason why I picked those values, those priorities, is every single one of those makes a wheel. You've got to have your public safety. You've got to have your ag, rural, and conservative. You've got to have your elders, your veterans, so forth. If one of those pieces are gone, you've got a flat tire. It takes everything to keep that a whole. So that is a big reason that I'm running for District 35, to keep the tire aired up, I guess you could say. Thank you all very much.
Well, thank you again for hosting the candidate forum this evening, and to my fellow candidates and everybody that came out to listen to us three talk some politics on a Thursday night. I appreciate you guys taking the time. So thank you for coming out. My biggest deal is I'm just excited. There's two ways that we could look at the way the state of Oklahoma is right now, and we could be glass half empty because 50th in education and where we rank in healthcare and all these sort of things, or we could be glass half full and we could say the only way that we can go from here is up. And so our state is sitting on currently around $4 billion in the rainy day fund. I think that this is a great time to invest some of that money in the future of Oklahoma and in social services that will benefit all Oklahomans. I think that there's opportunity with the tribes and with things like we talked about earlier with gaming relations, where there's an ability to add more to that rainy day fund, and again, to invest that into our people and into our future generations. The reason why I'm running is because I was born in a trailer park on the south side of Stillwater. My family was incredibly poor as I was growing up. I benefited from food stamps and social services. I benefited from affordable public education, and I benefited from affordable junior college, and that's the only way that I have made it to where I am today. And now that I am there, I see all the help that I got. I don't want to be a ladder puller. I want to be a ladder extender to our future generations, to our kids and grandkids, so that they have the exact same opportunity I want them to learn, I want them to grow, and more importantly, I want them to stay in this state that I love so much and contribute to future society. So that's why I'm running for District 35 House Representative. My name is Luke Cruz, and thank you guys so much for having us out tonight.
Thank you. Let's give all the candidates a hand. Well, with that, gentlemen, if you would stay around, and that's going to conclude this part of our live stream. And we thank you all. And just so you know, at one time, I think we had about 35 people out there. This is something that has not been done. When Pawnee Nation had approached United Indian Nations to moderate and co-host, we were glad to do this. Last time we did it on the election year, which we'll do it again. But we had 72 candidates that we did this with. Yeah, it went a little quicker. So you got to speak a lot more. But anyway, thank you all, and thank you for everyone who was out there listening to the candidates forum tonight. It wasn't a debate, it was a forum. Thank you all. Good night.
Maybe, yeah. I want to thank all of you civic-minded people for coming out. Very important that you're here. You guys did a great job. I want to thank you, and I want to thank the United Indian Nations of Oklahoma for being here, and Bruce Pratt also serves on our Intertribal Affairs Committee. So he's wearing two hats tonight. Arthur was worried about giving me this mic.
I don't live in your district. I'm actually from the city of Ada, down in south central Oklahoma, but I am a student at Oklahoma State University, so I do spend 9 months out of my year up here in your district. So in 2019, my former Senator Greg McCourtney introduced legislation to the Senate to conduct the second comprehensive geological study of the Arbuckle-Simpson Aquifer, which supports the water systems for a lot of southeast Oklahoma. So I'm wondering, to ask the three of you, would you be willing to work with, or should you be given the opportunity, would you be willing to work with the tribes in your district to promote land sustainability and to write legislation to make sure that the citizens of this area have land and water to live off of? So would you be willing to write similar legislation to what Senator McCourtney did back in 2019? Thank you.
Sure.
Absolutely, and I think, I mean, obviously we have to conserve the aquifer that everybody is using, especially if you're out on well water, and more importantly, going back to the original treaties with the tribes, you know, as long as the grass grows and the water runs, that water rights are a huge part of negotiations with the tribes, and so I would be more than willing to again seek wise counsel and make the best decisions in terms of preserving the water in Oklahoma. Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. With that, thank you, gentlemen. If you want to hang around and meet the people, that'd be great.